Welcome to Critique of the Peer Review Science Channel. Donate to our channel on PayPal, pernaturallinguistics@gmail.com. What roles, according to primary materials, did blacks have in contributing to the constructions of pyramids, and did they themselves have relative pyramid constructions or a relationship in continuity of pyramid structures seen throughout the Sudanic area, what they call the Sudanic belt or the Sahel type of geographical area stretching from east to west. So as you see here on my screen, we find that in historical methodology, we can utilize various sources. Today, we're going to be utilizing primary materials that's created at the time of the event. And we're going to also be using secondary sources, which is published documents, published peer-reviewed documentation. The published peer-reviewed documentation will be from the Journal of Ancient, Modern, and Digital Scripts and Inscriptions, which is a peer-reviewed journal. And sorry about that. The other authors of this particular paper would be so as you see the autobiography here of Weni. So here's a picture of what they are promoting, which pseudoscientists are promoting, New Age race theorists, or which I consider this is inherently racist, where you're taking out the autochthonous populations that are existing all the way up the Nile and in the southern parts and the northern parts. You're taking them out of history and you are replacing them with aliens because you may can't believe that blacks assisted with pyramid building, but blacks assisted with pyramid buildings, with pyramid construction, and it would probably be impossible to even construct pyramids without the assistance of the blacks in the southern region, which was a unified effort. It was all a southern thing that was going on with constructions of the pyramids. So this is Weni. Weni here appears in Harvard, which I cited the source in the description, and you find the photo of Weni, an artifact of Weni. And this is excavated by a Michigan team in 1999. And the tomb was in Abydos Middle Cemetery, which is southern Kemet. And you see you have the typical phenotype of Africans within that area, within that different time period. And this is how the actual inscription looked. This is a source from Wikipedia. We find the actual autobiography of Weni, which is an old Egyptian script, old Egyptian artifact. And we have the old Egyptian writing that is on here. All right. So as we scan this paper, we're going to just do a quick scan of this paper. So the circles is places associated with Weni activities. So he was mainly a southern Kemetio, and a lot of his activities was in Nubia, right, or the general area near Tasseti, or Tasseti itself here. So this is the beginnings of Tasseti, going within Tasseti. And then some of his excavations was in Red Sea ports known during the Old Kingdom, which was in Wadi Al Jaf, Wadi Magada. Wadi Magada is like Bonir and Wadi Magada and Tel Ras Badran. The most important mining areas in Sinai during the Old Kingdom. So you have Wadi Magaba was like one of the most important mining territories in which they were getting material, and in primary materials they was also getting granite deep down south with the blacks who were assisting them in pyramid construction. So we see the circles representing the places associated with Weni activities, and he is all up, down, and now he's from Nubia, lower the top end of the southern top end, and then he's in Abydos, Hatnoop, and he's all the way up in Memphis and Saqqara as he's going further downward, which is actually in their perspective further north. So he gives excellent translations, transliterations. Yet I don't agree 100%. I have my own views, interpretations, etymological reasons, linguistic reasons of some of the terms he's translating. I would probably have a different viewpoint, but other than that, we can trust the source here as he's translating very well. This will be included in the 5th expedition, as we see here. All right. So this is like a nautical expedition. During this time period, they are constructing the pyramids, the pyramid of Merenre, and Merenre's pyramid. You see, it follows this construction pattern, which they are loading large, ton granite, large granite stones from the southern region of Kemet, which includes the blacks. Now it says the fifth expedition. This is primary materials, peer review data. The nautical activities of Weni concluded with the digging of 5 canals at the first cataract, as well as the construction of 3 barges and 4 towboats of Nubian acacia wood, if I'm pronouncing it correct. These vessels were utilized to transport large granite blocks for the construction of Menrenre's pyramid. So this southern African is consulting with other southern Africans from the hill countries, and this is why I would kind of disagree with this transliteration of Pikakasu here, which would mean more hill country area, because as you get further south in the Nile Valley, things starting to get a lot more hilly than the flat plains when you start going further or downward down in the southern regions, heading towards the north. So the location, this inscription is the historical context and location is in the southern regions. And as we go and read the transliteration, well, we're not going to read an entire transliteration just for time here, but we see here where it's mentioning the Nahisi groups. You have it mentions the Hikakasu, which my transliteration is, of course, those are the hill countries or rulers of the hill countries. I don't say foreign chiefs. That makes no sense because the location is Upper Kemet. So it says His Majesty, and you see Shamau, M, you see M meaning in. So they are in Shamau, Upper Kemet. They are in Kemet, and they are consulting with blacks in Upper Kemet. So it says His Majesty sent me to excavate 5 canals in Upper Kemet. See that? Upper Egypt, Samario, Southern. This is the location. And to build 3 Westcat boats and 4 Sot, bolts of acacia wood of Wawat. See, Wawat. Then the foreign chiefs, which he translates Hikakasud as foreign chiefs. No, that's not in all possible manners where we should translate foreign if we are already inside of Kemet. That does not match with context. We must say hill countries, because as we go further in that region, we have more mountainous and hill country areas. Now it says, then the foreign chiefs of Jet, Wat, Yam, and Magi drew the timber for them. All right. So the blacks drew the timber for their other southern brothers within that area. They are consulting blacks. Blacks are assisting them in drawing timber for building the boats to transport. Now it says, I did it all in 1 year. Floated. They were loaded with large granite blocks for the pyramid. Mernere appears in splendor. Indeed, I made a saving for the palace with all these 5 canals. Right? So you have chiefs, black chiefs of this region drawing timber. They are building ships. It says the 5 canals in Kemet, and to build 3 boats and 4 boats of wood of Nubia. So the boats are made from black material, of the Nubian material that's found in the southern Egyptian region. And then it says, then the foreign chiefs, or those of the hill countries, chiefs of the hill countries, Ertet, Yet, Wawat, Yam, and Magi, drew the timber for them. All right. It says, I did it all in 1 year. Floated. They were loaded with very large granite blocks for the pyramid. So this is how they transporting stones for a pyramid, which shows the contribution of blacks. It doesn't mention aliens. We don't see aliens in this this copy of the primary inscription. We don't see modern Egyptians. Modern Egyptians, the term Egyptian is anachronistic to this time period. There is no such thing as Egyptian in this time period. We see Shamawu, which means south, or the upper regions of the south. We don't see terms like Egyptian. So here is just a convention. Egypt is only used as a convention. Thus for is just the upper region, the southern regions. Within those southern regions, they are gathering wood of Wawat to build ships. So they are building these ships. They are consulting the chiefs of the hill country regions. Wawat, Yam, and notably the Magi, which are known black groups, and they drew the timber for them, and then floated. They were loaded with very large granite blocks for the pyramid. It doesn't mention aliens. It doesn't mention a advanced civilization of Atlantis. It doesn't mention Lemuria, Mu. It doesn't mention remnants. This primary material is directly discussing who is assisting directly with the construction of Merenre's pyramid. And we see that they are building, the Nubians are building ships, assisting with shipbuilding, and they are assisting with getting very intricate, important material, especially black wood, Nubian wood. And this Nubian wood would assist with helping other southern blacks within the Nile Valley get the granite or the blocks for the pyramid. So they were actually using water. So we're going to go into this journal here, and not only do the southern Nile Valley Africans have something to do with building the pyramids themselves and consulting other Africans and assisting them with building and transporting the blocks to get built, but we also have links between scholars that did research and secondary peer-reviewed documents here of the linkage of the relationship between the pyramids of West Africa. Some scholars call them both pyramids of West Africa and ancient Nubia. So this is more West African connection with the Nile Valley region. We know Nubia is in Kemet itself. So thus far, this is, directly relating to that area. And it says, restoring William Lee Hansberry's vision of ancient Kush and Sudanic Africa. So we're going to check this out. Let's type in pyramid. We're going to type in a keyword here because I just want to address some connections that I've seen just for quickness here. Okay, so let's read the abstract first because it's quite interesting as we see older scholars are making these connections in which later scholars and peer-reviewed data are building upon the older scholars' work. So we have William Leo Hansberry, an older scholar, a pioneer, and this states Hansberry, a pioneer and founder of African studies in the United States, proposed in 1921 that the origins of Egyptian pyramids were in Central Africa. Hansberry analysis was based upon the discovery of earthen pyramids, mounds, tumuli in the inland Niger Delta in the modern country of Mali. This paper provides an overview of key West African tumuli sites as preliminary discussion for future research for scholars to advance a new comparative approach, both archaeologically and anthropologically, for understanding the design, function, and purpose of tumuli in both West Africa and the Middle Nile Valley. Hansberry's research presents a model for transdisciplinary engagement, which includes the disciplines of Nubianology, Egyptology, Africana scholarship, and Africana studies. Let's see if interesting parts. Let's see what we can find. All right. So in one part of his text, he said, it is noteworthy that although both Desplanes and Frobenius referred to the Niger tumuli as mounds, they are also described these superstructures as pyramids. So this is why I say that some scholars argue that pyramids are not tumuli, et cetera, but some scholars actually referred, and I'm glad he brought that out, because that's kind of certain scholars play the semantic game, which is not that serious in a nutshell if you're doing real research. So he made it simple that some scholars, combines both of them, tumuli and pyramids. It says Desplanes stated that the Niger tumuli took the shape of a truncated pyramid, and Frobenius described the mounds as the monumental pyramids of Songhai. So here we go again. Other scholars are describing mounds as pyramids, and it seems like they are interchangeable in a sense. Now it says Hansberry was keenly aware of the significance of Desplanes and Frobenius's findings in establishing links between the tumuli in the Niger Valley and those in the Nile Valley. He recognized that the tumuli of the Nigerian plateau were very similar to the pyramids of early Egypt and to the royal mounds of the Kerma and Nubadian civilizations in ancient Kush and Nubia. Hansberry proposed that the origins of Egyptian pyramids were in Central Africa. All right, that's excellent. The veteran Egyptologist Flinders Petrie in a great mass of evidence adduced by him to show the African origin of the spirit and substratum of early dynastic Egyptian culture points out that there is a very close connection between the subterranean structures of these tombs and many of those of the Egyptian pyramids. The inference being that the idea of the pyramids very probably had its origin in Central Africa. Excellent, right up, excellent. All right, so let's continue on to the right. Okay. Early dynastic Egypt was, at least in terms of the construction of royal mound tumuli, wholly within the Sudanic Sahelian tradition, and therefore the later triangular pyramids for which ancient Egypt is popularly known represented a divergent practice from its Sudanic and Sahelian roots, an architectural innovation inspired by the earlier construction of mound tumuli. This is actually, I love how he put that. That's very excellent. And I also agree that we can find these mounds and these structures all within stretching from east to western Africa in various locations in or within the Sudanic or the Sahelian belt. So this peer review data is on point. It says the links between Sudanic Sahelian tumuli and Nile Valley pyramids is very apparent. And it is also important to reiterate Rachel Dan's assertion that the tradition of tumuli burial was earlier than a pyramid and stretched back into mortuary practices of the Sudan. So too, and that's an important connection. So too was not only was the Great Pyramids connected to mortuary type of functions with the king and a spirituality with the aspect of reaching, heaven, etc. But also within the Sudan, it also had mortuary practices. So that is another important thing I definitely would look into more. It is for this reason that the author uses the term earthen pyramids in the title of this article to convey that the tumulus should also be understood as a proto-pyramid in relation to the pyramids in Egypt and Meroitic Kush. Beautiful. Okay. Yet this paper is not about the origins of Nile Valley pyramids. This paper seeks to provide an overview of key West African tumuli sites as a preliminary discussion for future archaeological and anthropological research by scholars in Nubiology, Egyptology, Africana studies, and Africanist research. Archaeological research on both West African and Middle Nile Valley tumuli has been well reported since Hansberry observations in the early 20th century. Shiganshi Jope in his classic work, African Origin of Civilizations, notes that the pyramids were discovered on Lake Debo in the inland Niger Delta of Mali and were dubbed mounds in an attempt to disparage their connection to similar structures in the Nile Valley. Wow. Edwards highlights what he describes as material power bases shared between Meroitic Kush and Sudanic Africa, such as control of long-distance trade, nomadic pastoralism, military supremacy, and the expansion of royal power through alliances and economic integration. In connecting the Middle Nile Valley with the rest of Sudanic Africa, Edwards states, we may begin to reintegrate the history of Mero and Kush into that of Sudanic Africa. Wow. So Mero and Kush wasn't in that arena. They had to reintegrate it in. Interesting. They had to reintegrate Mero and Kush in as a connection to Sudanic Africa. Wow. And they also had pyramids. Mero Kush have pyramids. As he suggests that Meroitic Kush is the forerunner of later Sudanic kingdoms such as Kanem, Borno, Ghana, and Mali. Nubianologists and Egyptologists have been incessantly Egyptocentric in prioritizing ancient Nubia's relationship with Egypt while ignoring the East-West Sudanic axis that figured so prominently in shaping Nubia's cultural development. Wow. This is another good for literature review. It says in his article, Hausa Legend and Earth Pyramids in the Western and Central Sudan, he referred to Sahelian tumuli as pyramids of the earth. Here, so someone said they were constructed by Sumerians. You saying they were constructed by Sumerians, right? The only problem is, do you have any peer review data? Because if you see this here, we don't see Sumerians listed. That's the only problem is that. So there's only two groups. There's Nahisi, and you have other Southern Comitial Cometians. It doesn't mention Sumerians in primary documents. So, of course, we this OER here, although this is discussion, we see that our method, we use historical methodology. We use primary sources and published documents, and they have to be peer reviewed. It's a must, right? Unless you can read the primary materials. So Volta, if you can share, I'll give you a little time to share if you can find primary materials or any type of peer-reviewed document that states that Sumerians built Egyptian pyramids. I'll give you like 5 minutes, and then if not, then I will make sure all y'all leave in peace. All right, I'll give you 5 minutes to. It should be easy to find if Sumerians built Egyptian pyramids. We find here primary materials, and this is peer-reviewed documentation of other Southern Africans, Southern Blacks, Southern Africans being assisted by other Southern Nile Valley Africans, which are Nehisi, which are Blacks. The Blacks are building the ships. He went to this area of Upper Kemet to get ships built, to get timber from this portion of the Nile Valley. And also, this is where they are shipping the granite stone from. They are getting the granite to build the pyramids and to construct them from this area. They are moving very large stone. Without the nautical expeditions, no pyramids can be built. So it doesn't say that they are getting these granite stones and this primary material from Samaria. It only says in Africa. That's it. Sub-Saharan Africa. So the Nehisi groups, of course, are in Sub-Saharan Africa within the Nile Valley. They are not receiving counsel from Sumerians, and I'm not taking away nothing from the Sumerians. I studied the Sumerian civilization as a historian as well. So, but it doesn't say it. So, I ain't going to keep you. I'm going to give you 5 minutes. Put some nice music on, and if you could come with just any peer review document within the last 25 years, and I will look at it and accept it here. All right. If not, we're going to go with the peer review data because this is a peer review channel, and we synthesize peer review information for academic integrity. That's all, so. So let me check to see if that person left. So that person didn't left no peer review data of Sumerian building pyramids, no primary materials. Again, I will go back to historical methodology approaches that I always try to use when I'm saying or discussing narratives of historical data. So we use primary sources, right, and published documents. So I just use those two here. So primary sources will indicate created at the time of the event. So we use actually the primary source here, and it doesn't say that Sumerians assisted them. It says that the fifth expedition was assisted by Blacks, not Sumerians. So we're gonna end off with that. Shem Imhotep, shop.